Hey, a good Tuesday morning to you. This is Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com, our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube page. As the Cardinals schedule finally got to us, Claibs. We had to switch some things around in place of the Cardinals.
Yeah, but it was all for a good cause. Cardinals are playing today up in Port St. Lucie. There will be no broadcast, so we thought this would be a better day than yesterday when we were going right up against the Cardinals, and we don't want to do that. So we thought today would work. So we are glad everybody is tuned in. I ran into a couple of people yesterday at Roger Dean who check out our podcast, and I reminded them about it today. So we hope they're on board, and anybody else. And also, Joe, we want to make sure that if you have questions for us and you have comments, you can email us. Here on StreamYard, and we'll try and get to it today. And more importantly, we want to thank all of our participants, our sponsors, certainly Munganast of Alton, Illinois. I'm driving one of their fine vehicles here in Florida, a nice Highlander. And I got to tell you something. I've kind of fallen in love with that vehicle. I like it a lot. Plenty of space. It's got all the bells and whistles to it. And if you're thinking about one, you might want to swing by and check them out because they've got a number of vehicles available. Also, a huge used car selection. And believe me, folks, when it comes to being able to do the deal, they can do it any way you need to. They can bring it to you. You can come see them. You can go online. They have everything covered. And one of the great things about doing business with Munganast, and I've done it before, I love the service. I love the fact that they are working with me instead of trying to work against me as far as doing the deal and making sure that when I leave, I'm going to tell somebody. And I'm telling you right now that this is a great place you might want to check out. As I mentioned, I bought cars from there. Joe, just recently, you just got one from there. And we see a lot of other people. And if you're thinking about renting, that's another good spot. Another good spot to go check out the vehicles they have that are available for rental as well. And as we've talked before, graduation is just around the corner for some of those youngsters in your family, and they're going to need a vehicle because you don't want to be a full-time Uber driver. So maybe now's the time to start looking at something that they might be interested in. And remember, they have no say-so in what you pick because you're paying. So they may want this and that. No, you're paying, and there's some great used cars over there. So go by and check out our friends from Munganast. And, of course, we're powered by Ameren, Illinois. And where will we be without our good friend Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert, who we're going to visit with a little later, because while he does the best deals when it comes to purchasing a home, Ryan is so community committed, and he's got a new project that we're going to talk to him about a little later in the show.
Yeah, AltonToyota.com is where you can go to get the information on renting a car. Hey, the whole country is opening back up. Stuff is as people start to get the vaccine. I just got my first shot yesterday. Things are starting to open. It's time to start planning stuff and any road trips you have. AltonToyota.com. The Cardinals did announce last week 32% capacity for opening day. That's roughly around 15,000 fans. The White Sox and the Cubs, the city of Chicago announced yesterday they will allow 20% of fans. So with that announcement, all teams, the 29 teams that will be playing at their home stadiums to start the season, will all have fans in the crowd, as the Toronto Blue Jays are going to stay down in Florida for the at least the first month or two of the season before they are allowed to before travel is allowed back in Canada. So it will. How has it been so far to call these games and to do the stuff on KMOX with fans in the stands? Something that it's been a year since you guys got to do.
You know, that's a good question. I've been asked that question before. It's a little odd, but it's welcoming. The fans have not been as vocal because I think they're trying to get acclimated to being in a ballpark again. And they're spread out. I mean, they're in pods of 2s and 4s. And it's one of those deals where you don't get a lot of energy, but the energy that's in the ballpark, I think you certainly notice it's better than the piped in noise that we had last year. And that was the best we could do. But overall, you're starting to see them really embrace what their role is at the ballpark. I sat in the stands yesterday for a few innings, and it's always interesting when you have people who sit around you and they're either explaining the game to someone else like a kid, or there's some other baseball conversation going on, and you just kind of look around and you want to say, well, that's not quite what they're doing, but okay, you're paying attention, so that's a good start.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, you're just sitting there and you don't want to jump in. You don't want to. You don't want to correct
jumping
him.
in on mine. Yeah, you're right.
That's what I've said. I've had those issues at the gym when there's people that are sitting around and they're having their conversations and everything, and I have somebody that'll walk by and say, "Hey, you know what they're saying over there isn't quite true. If you want to go correct them," and I said, if I was over there correcting them for everything they said that was wrong, I'd be pulling up a chair and sitting with them all morning.
Yeah. So or moving in with them. That's why I don't go to Super Bowl parties. I haven't been to a Super Bowl party in at least 30, 35 years. Because when I would go, you would get with a group of people and somebody would make an incorrect statement and you kind of want to subtly correct them. And then it's like, oh, Mr. Know-It-All. So, yeah, you're right. I do know more than you. So I'm going to go home and watch it so I have a tradition. I think I've had, over the years, other than my then wife, maybe 4 people that I've actually sat and watched the game with. I've done it here in Florida. But other than that, I don't do it for that very reason. Because I want them to have fun. I want them to be more right, but it is what it is. But in answer to your original question, it is different. I think the players are starting to feel it as well, as fans call out their names and they hear the ovations for them. So it's an adjustment period, though.
Yeah, the story that you tell there, it reminds me of some of the other stories that you can watch, you can listen to right now. Our newest podcast that's up on the website right now is Mike Claiborne and Tim McKernan for an hour and 40 minutes. You two, good Lord, you guys talk for a long time. But the stories, I mean, it's going to fly by. As I listened to most of it yesterday. And I know that I've heard the name Bob Hyland quite a bit, working with you and just being in radio in St. Louis for the past 11 plus years. And I've heard that name a lot, but some of the stories that you tell of him being one of your first bosses in radio, I really, really enjoyed the Willie McGee story you had with him.
Yeah, I'm going to just tell people to listen to the podcast and they can hear that story told. But you know what? He was an incredible person, but I would suggest to people that they should check it out. Tim and I, we did this 2 years ago at his place. And I said, hey, we ought to do this again. And we were playing golf one day and I said, all right, we're going to do it. Because we were trying to do it last year with Dan McLaughlin, but the schedules just didn't mesh. And then when the pandemic struck, everybody kind of went their different direction. But it was one of those moments where we had a great time. And I consider Tim a very good friend over the years. And to watch him ascend in his business and us having fun, it was a great visit. And I would suggest that people listen to where we think all this is headed, as far as how you get your sports, your information, and everything else. So I would say, yeah, check it out.
The full video is up on our website on claibsonline.com, part 1. And then if you just want to listen to the audio only, the podcast version, that is up on Tim's website. If you search the Tim McKernan podcast or the Tim McKernan show, and then part 2 of the audio version is up on claibsonline.com. So we have it split up for everybody to go check out both websites and listen to that. And the video portion of it, you guys get to see the interaction of that. And that's one thing I've really enjoyed doing with this, and kind of bringing, as you bring up in there, kind of bringing that streaming radio, that video radio, which I mean, would you say Mike and Mike were probably the first two that started that back in the day when they were on ESPN2 and they brought that radio show to life? And Dan Patrick's one of my favorite. He's done that for years. And I think this past year, as we embark, I mean, we're going to 12 months. I mean, 52 weeks since the world shut down. The stuff, never knew this website existed. 12 months ago. Didn't know this website existed 10 months ago, that we're bringing this to you every week on.
Now, you mentioned something to me the other day that we've posted more than 500 items on the site. Now, you think about that. That's more than one a day. And we're having a lot of fun with that. And it's been fun. You mentioned Dan Patrick. His real name is Daniel Patrick Pugh. He played at Dayton on an intramural team. He couldn't play for Dayton. But Pugh could stroke it. And I had a buddy of mine I went to high school with who was on that same team and said he could really play. So let me tell you a quick Dan Patrick story. He's doing basketball games for ESPN. And they have a Friday night game here in St. Louis at the old Kiel Auditorium. It's long gone. It's where the Enterprise Center is now. And during a timeout, the Billikens had a coach named John Mulroy. He was an assistant coach. He coached at the University of Detroit. So Mulroy was watching the replay or watching the huddle of the other team. I can't remember who the team was. And Mulroy was watching them diagram a play. And Pugh looks up and sees him, figuring out what's going on. And Pugh rats him out on the air. It was hilarious. And Mulroy got in trouble for it.
Really?
He got in trouble for it. I mean, he didn't get fired or anything, but it was really a big topic of discussion. And
but really, just to get in trouble for that. I mean, if you're that just out there with diagramming a play that the other coach on the other bench could see it, that's
But the thing is, they had a camera in the huddle. And you and I as fans,
so he's watching the monitor.
Exactly.
I thought he was just looking. Okay,
no, he was like watching the monitor, and it was something. So we used to get Dan on the show. He has a sister that lives in St. Louis. I think she still lives there, so she would listen all the time. And I think what he's done with his show, and you talk about Mike and Mike, has really created the impetus for everybody else to try and move forward. With regard to how these shows work. And I tip my cap to him. I think he's always been one of the best in the business. And I remember when he started at CNN, right? And so CNN had the best highlight show. CNN with Nick Charles and Fred Hickman. And I knew Fred, and I got to know Nick over the course of time. Maybe Nick Charles, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. God rest his soul. He's one of Frank Cusimano's idols. Frank idolized this guy. So anyway, Patrick was an up-and-comer. So he takes the job at ESPN, and the first night that he's on with Chris Berman. And he stumbled through something. He was trying to be kind of a wise guy to Chris. And he said, well, you can always go back to Nick and Fred. Just like that. I mean, he just rolled it right off, man. And hence the career started with him at ESPN. Then he worked with Keith Olbermann, which might have been the best combination ESPN had for a while. But he's been a real trailblazer in this business and what he was able to do. But yeah, he could stroke it, man. They say he was shooting threes before threes were popular, and he was a very good golfer at the time because he'd come to St. Louis and play quite a bit because he would do his show out of our studio from time to time.
So let me, before we're going to stay on this topic for a little bit here. I got a few other things, but you said Olbermann, Patrick. So who do you pick between Olbermann and Patrick or Stuart Scott and Rich Eisen? Which one was which one's?
Oh, that's a good one. Man, I think the key was the creative writing by all four of them really is what made it. Man, I'm gonna take the Tony La Russa route, tied for first.
Does anything that Keith Olbermann has kind of turned into recently in his career kind of sour that for you?
Well, I think what's happened. He's a difficult person to work with, from what I understand. Well educated, went to Brown. And who's the conservative talk show host? She's on she's on Fox. They used to kick it back in the day, and they're so complete opposites. He's far to the left, she's far to the right. But you can get a very frank opinion about Keith Olbermann. He has not endeared himself with a lot of people. He probably leads the league in most jobs gained and lost. I mean, but he's got a lot of talent. You take his politics out of it, he's as good as anybody. Very creative. But man, that's a great question you pose as far as great combinations. And because they're so inconsistent now on who's on and when they're on, it's hard to really.
I couldn't tell you one single Sports Center anchor. I could not sit there and tell you. I couldn't even tell you if the show's on. Right. I mean, do they still do the 6 o'clock show? I mean, they have so many of just the 30-minute or the 1 hour talk shows that just kind of rotate, and that's their schedule now. And it's more talking heads, talking topics, which brings up Skip Bayless and what he's
got pictures, man. He's got to have pictures.
What was it? 4 years, $32 million is what Fox is giving him for about 100,000 people tuning in a day, which is not a good number. Richard Deitch is one of. I mean, Richard Deitch
he just tortures him.
He does not like that man at all.
And I can understand why. Here's what I would say about Skip Bayless. And I've known Skip Bayless. I remember when Skip Bayless was I've known him for a long time when he was in Texas. But here's the thing about him. Love him or not like him. He gets the job done because he creates conversation. But the problem is for him, he's kind of an irrelevant person. I mean, his shtick doesn't really work anymore. You know, how he goes after LeBron and I think Stephen A helped make him more than anything else. And they were trying to get those two back together. But Skip Bayless is a guy I never watch. I've seen it all and I've heard it all, and I have no interest in. And he may say something that's relevant. I don't know. I doubt it. But that's just somebody I just turned the page on. But there's some people who can't get enough of throwing things at the TV because of him. And some people want to be known for that. I'd rather utilize my energy in a more positive manner and find somebody who I find that I can relate to a little bit better. So for him to get that money, then kudos to him. That means that somebody has it, which means maybe somebody else can get some too.
I will tell you this, at Super Bowls, when they are broadcasting live, when they're doing the show, and this was when he was on ESPN, this was when he was on Fox, they would have a big, huge structure set up somewhere in that town. It wasn't on Radio Row. It was off-site,
right?
Sometimes right across the street, other times in a different, more popular part of the town. And the line of people that would be there to wait for them. Most of them wearing Cowboys jerseys. I'll point that out, that most of them, and the Cowboys have never been to a Super Bowl that I've been in. So that just tells you how well those fans travel. But the amount of Cowboys fans or just regular people that would be sitting out there waiting to just see a glimpse of him, I think tells you why he keeps getting contracts. The amount of money he gets, though, that's a different story. But yeah. They did. I saw this on Awful Announcing today. I was looking for the story as we were talking. There is an idea that Fox Sports has come up with for a new Skip Bayless afternoon show. It will be a Judge Judy style sports debate show with Skip Bayless as the judge.
I think they should just name it Skip It. Move on. It's interesting that everybody wants an afternoon show now.
Bailiff. Would that be the name of that?
I'm just going to call it Skip It because I'm not going to watch it.
All right, let's
something else.
Hey, we have Ryan Kelly coming up in about 10 minutes. I want to. We have a lot of stuff we need to get to, but as we started here, Claibs, John Mozeliak was talking to the media in a Zoom press conference, and kind of some interesting news coming out of that, and even before. The Cardinals have announced that they will use GSE Credit Union Ballpark in Sauget, which is the home of the Gateway Grizzlies. They will be using that as an alternative training site in 2021. So the Cardinals are open to a possibility of hosting games at the alternate site, that because they don't want to have 3-hour bus rides back and forth from Springfield to St. Louis for that. So they are possibly going to be using the GCS Park or Busch Stadium when the Cardinals are on the road. And that's where the alternative players will be this year. So does that mean how is that going to work is there going to be AAA alternative site then?
I think that's still to be determined, I guess. I think that probably will come out. But when they start talking about alternative sites, that was the first thing I thought of. And because I think that's a grass field compared to TR Hughes Stadium, which I think went to a turf field a couple of years ago. But I thought that was the most logical thing to do. It saves on expenses. It saves on travel. You can keep an eye on your players a lot better. I just think it's a perfect scenario for the Cardinals at this stage. Now, as you mentioned, I think the next page of this is, how is this going to work later? And I think that's something they have on the board to probably figure out. But I think it's a good idea to just to keep these guys active. I mean, some of these guys, Joe, have gone a whole year without any real competitive activity other than going through drills. So they've got to put themselves in a position to create more development. Think about a guy like Nolan Gorman or Liberatore. they're 20 years old, 21 years old, so they've got a lot more in front of them. But, man, this is a critical time for them to be able to take that next step. And the better organized you are where they can play, they've got to play, but they also need instruction. I think it's ideal for them right now.
Those are the two names I was going to bring up, that you're seeing all of these prospect ratings. You're seeing all these pipeline top 100 lists as we start the season. It is impossible to figure out where a player like that, or how to rise, how a player should rise and fall when they didn't play a single game all of last year. They had no competitive outings for a year, and yet we're moving guys up and down on the pipeline charts and telling you who's a top prospect when we have no idea how any of these guys have improved their game or what could have fallen off over the past year. Derek Gould has an article about it in the Post-Dispatch right now. He wrote it up quickly. So they're saying as many as 28 players can be assigned to the alternative site. The AAA season, it says here that it's been, I'm looking here to see, it might have been delayed or it might be getting delayed.
It probably will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the workouts will be organized and run by the Cardinals AAA staff before they head to Memphis. The Cardinals and all teams in baseball will be allowed to take as many as 5 players from the taxi squad with them on opening day. So what are we still set at 26 players for the start of the year?
You'll have 31 guys. You'll have to travel.
Yeah. So Cincinnati and Miami to start the season, there'll be 31 guys with the club for that. So the Grizzlies schedule is set to start in late May, so there won't be any kind of overlap there. So all right, maybe it's a way to sell more tickets too. Maybe you have some alternative games there and you bring another 14 on 14 and bring in some fans, pay $5 and watch a 5-inning scrimmage game, and where the coaches just kind of throw pitchers however much they want, which it brings me to the big question mark right now at spring training that I've been seeing. You're seeing it in person. You're watching all the games, so you give me a better idea. Adam Wainwright's the only pitcher that could make it out of a first inning of a ball game right now. What the hell's going on?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that are happening. One, you've got some guys that are trying to work through some things. I never put a lot of stock in that first outing because normally guys are either pumping fastballs or working on different things and really just trying to get a reaction to what the hitters are trying to do when they see certain pitches. I look at the next round for these pitchers to be one I'm going to pay a little closer attention to, only to see if they made adjustments. The third time around is when you want to really kind of bear down a little bit more and you want to see good hitters. And then that fourth opportunity, if you get one, is the one that says, all right, this is how I'm going to start the season off. I'm not overly concerned. And the reason I say that is because with KK, he's an experienced pitcher. He's just working through some mechanical issues, in my opinion. And I know he said his velocity was down in his first outing, but I think that had a lot to do with his mechanics being off. And he admitted that his mechanics weren't where they needed to be. And for a guy who doesn't throw ultra hard, he has to be a mechanically driven pitcher. He also has to maintain good balance in his delivery. And I think once he finds that happy medium, he'll be fine. Carlos just got off to a bad start. He got squeezed a little bit by the home plate umpire, and then he started to pitch from behind. He made a fielding error that really opened up the gates for him, so I'm anxious to hear what he has a chance to do today. The other guys, John Gant was okay. He had 2 walks that cost him some runs, but I think you have to kind of turn the page and see how they've adjusted between now and their previous start.
So when should we be concerned?
If you and I are having this conversation a week from now and everybody's still blowing up, then maybe we ought to kind of look around. But here's the question. You don't know about Michaelis yet. And these other guys are fighting it. I think I've told you on more than one occasion that I think that you have to concern yourself with the 4th and 5th starters, which means you're going to elevate some guys who you had penciled in to be in your bullpen. I think you have to look at Ponce, you have to look at Reyes, you have to look at John Gant right off the top. So the question is if I'm moving those guys where they're going to get more starter-like innings, who's going to replace them in the bullpen? And I think that's a key question we have to get resolved before we leave here. Does this mean that Zach Thompson gets a shot? There's some other guys that we've seen throw that you said, maybe they might be all right. But the bottom line is here, Joe, we don't have enough young guys who are throwing strikes. All right. That's been the biggest bugaboo in this early spring training. The young guys aren't throwing enough strikes. Now, is it nerves? Is it lack of experience? Is it trying to work on some things? Is it they're facing better hitters who are making them throw strikes? There's a lot of things that go into it, but we need to see an ascension from them. We need to see improvement from them in order to make sure this bullpen doesn't burn up and the starters are overused, because I really think two of the guys, if not three guys that we thought would be in the bullpen, will be part of the starting rotation.
We might have to hold off maybe another week. I don't know if it's still too early yet to talk about Matt Carpenter and what he's been doing at the plate so far in spring training.
Well,
it's
we
not
can.
good. It's not good.
It's not. I've seen nothing different than last year, and that's unfortunate. Now,
it is, especially when he sits there and he talks about it. He goes, home for the offseason. He works on this and that, and then when you see it in a game, you see nothing different. A guy like Harrison Bader, that his stance and his approach seems very different.
Yeah, you're right.
Far, which hopefully it continues. Hopefully he carries that into the season and nobody gets in his ear or he doesn't get in his own head and change it up. But if you're not seeing anything different with Matt Carpenter, that's a concern.
It is a concern, and it's a concern for a couple of reasons. One, you want to give him every opportunity, okay? You're trying. But we didn't see it last year. We didn't see it the year before. We saw 1 month, maybe 5 weeks, that he really got hot, and then he regressed. And we're at a point now where the bigger issue here is the Cardinals don't have much left-handed experience from the left side batting-wise. You have Tommy Edman, who's a switch hitter. Dylan Carlson's a switch hitter. So combined, they have, about a year and a half worth of major league time, if that much. And then you have Justin Williams, who has even less time as an individual. So you don't have anybody else. There's nobody within sight of this organization that's left-handed that can hit at a major league level. So if Carpenter doesn't do it, that means you got to do something with him. And then you better go find a left-handed bat, because if you don't, we're so right-handed driven, teams are going to chew us up. You've got to have a left-handed bat just to create a little balance there. You have to.
3 weeks from Thursday, Cardinals will be in Cincinnati for the season opener on April 1st for that. So we got 3 weeks to figure all of this out. Hey, Ameren, Illinois, we are powered by them here on claibsonline.com. Energy savings made easy, and you may qualify for a free smart thermostat, a $169 value. Give them a call today at 866-251-2531 or go online to AmerenIllinoisSmartSavers.com to help your community save energy. Ameren, Illinois is providing thousands of smart thermostats to customers in select zip codes. If your home qualifies, you'll receive a new smart thermostat at no cost to you. Plus, you can install it and activate it yourself to earn a $25 e-gift card. Start saving today. That's 866-251-2531 or visit AmerenIllinoisSmartSavers.com to claim your free smart thermostats. I have one sitting right here in the right over my shoulder. Yeah, we like that, and like the you know what I've said this before. Go to their website, see what kind of deals they're always working on year round, because they had another energy saving kit that we got a few months ago that had all kinds of goodies in it, and we got it for free. It's we went on there and we signed up for all of those updates, and we got that for free, and have been using many of the items around the house. Ryan Kelly should be popping on here any minute, we assume, and we will talk to the home loan expert when he does. Blues out west, they are still out west. They still have the Golden Knights to come, but 2 losses in a row. The past 2 games after a 4-game winning streak. They lost it overtime. They still got the point last night. I think the important thing is that Vladimir Tarasenko is back, and it's going to take him a while. You think about it, this might be the healthiest that he's been in over a year, because he wasn't healthy when he came back last year when they started the playoffs in Edmonton. He wasn't healthy then. It showed. They shut him down really fast. And before that, you figure out when he played before then. It's been a long, long time since number 91's been healthy.
No, you're right. And I think that's something that we have to give time to. I think he'll snap back quicker than you think, though. I mean, he's a pretty good player, and he's gone through the drills, and he knows his body better than anyone else. I think it's more of a game timing issue for him than anything else. But with that said, this is a team that, to me, is just, I know they have injuries, but I don't like what I'm seeing. And I say that because there's some guys who have been getting some quality ice time, and because of all the injuries, and we're not getting enough productivity. And you're not playing 60 minutes of hockey. I mean, that's the oldest term in the book, but you're squandering leads, you're losing the teams. San Jose is not very good. Okay. They got good players, but they're just not a good team yet. And, if it wasn't for the Ducks and the Sharks, I don't know where the Blues would be right now, because they're having a hard time beating everybody else. And then you lose to San Jose in overtime, in a game that should have never went to overtime. So they've got to figure it out and quit thinking that when everybody shows up, all we have to do is just throw our sticks and gloves on the ice and we'll be the St. Louis Blues of 2019. I don't think it works that way.
I couldn't figure out. I couldn't decipher from your tweet last night. Were you a fan of the Kyle Clifford fight?
Well, now here's what I was a fan of it, but you know what? When I hear people say we got a heavyweight bout, okay, they're over 200 pounds, but I didn't see much real action, okay? Because fighting has changed in the National Hockey League, where guys the first thing they do is look to grab right here, right here, and try to hold a guy at arm's bay, all right? I get that. Then it becomes a wrestling match. And what disappoints me, these guys as fighters are better skaters than most of the guys who really could fight. And, if you're a good skater, you got a good chance to do some damage. But these guys just grab and they hold. You very seldom see guys really have a difference. And I guess the way we judge on whether you won or not is if you can flip a guy and make him hit the ice before you. So that was my disappointment. I think being a fighter or being an enforcer or whatever you want to call them in the National Hockey League is the hardest job in sports, period. There's nothing harder than what these guys do night in, night out. Now, there may be some skill issues that may be harder. Some people say hitting a baseball or driving a golf ball. But I think from a physical request, a physical demand, there's nothing harder than being an enforcer in the National Hockey League. And I'm glad that the Blues have Kyle Clifford, because he's a guy that's going to keep you honest, okay? He may be one of the last of the old school guys who understands his role, and he knows what he's there for. And if you want to get cute with Tarasenko or Perron or somebody like that, you have to deal with him. Now, you might win, you might not, but the fact that the gloves come off and there's a good chance in a punch him in the face contest, you might finish third. That's always should be in the back of your mind, because Clifford can handle himself.
All right. Hey, so tonight the Vegas is up next. The Blues are second right now in the Honda West Division in the NHL. Vegas is first. The Blues are second. The Blues are 1 point behind Vegas, but Vegas
how many
has
games in hand?
4 games in hand for Vegas. The Blues have played a lot more games than the teams that are the few games behind them out west. That could come back and haunt them here if they don't start getting wins against the Kings and the Sharks, and when they should be getting more points than just that overtime loss. That this might come back and hurt them.
I agree. I think that they squandered some really good opportunities, and we hear, you got a lot of guys hurt. Well, everybody looking around the league, everybody's hurt. I mean, either you're hurt or you're positive. And I think that we have to take into account that while COVID has had an impact, the compressed schedule has had an impact, as well as guys not having as much time to recover. And we talk about the Blues, and remember at the beginning of the year, we talked about that schedule and going out to the West Coast and the whole 9 yards, and we're seeing this long road trip. There are a lot of factors that come into creating fatigue in some athletes and injuries soon or to follow. So while everybody may have an excuse, everybody has an excuse, if you know what I mean. So your excuse is no different than the San Jose Sharks or the Kings or somebody else who's lost a good player or players. So you just got to suck it up and play. And I go back to my original point where there's some young players that are getting an opportunity to play. And what I think disappoints me is not the young players, but the veteran players who are being counted on more to produce, and they're not. And they've got to find a spark somewhere.
You mentioned the guys being positive. We haven't heard much of that lately. We haven't heard many setbacks as far as COVID related game time decisions or however the COVID list in hockey, and we haven't heard it much in basketball. But then the All-Star game this week, a barber possibly exposed 2 members of the Philadelphia 76ers, and that cost 2 of them from being in the game. So are we going to hear more stories about that now that we had the All-Star game, now that it happened? I didn't think it was a great idea to begin with, but it went off. They did the skills competition before, during, whatever. They made it all into one day. How much of that did you watch?
I never miss a skill competition. Never. It's one of my favorite things. Now, the only problem with it, Kevin Harlan has to be part of this All-Star weekend. He is the best host of the event, from 3-point to the skill to the dunk contest, and I guess because he's been doing it for so long. But yeah, that's one of the things I don't. And I was having dinner somewhere that night. I'm trying to think of where I was, but I didn't miss anything. Oh yeah, I was having dinner at Limoncello. I was sitting there watching the whole thing, and my significant was like, "Aren't you ready to go?" No, the dunk contest. And she said, "We can get home in time for." All right, if you promise. So yeah, I enjoy it, and I know people can be critical of it because of the participants and the fact that they don't know who some of these participants are. I think that's great for the league because they're seeing new faces and new people, and what they do with it from that point on is always fun to watch. And Zach LaVine is a classic example. Nobody heard of Zach LaVine before he won the dunk contest a couple of times. And now he's one of the premier players, certainly on the Chicago Bulls. And then he comes back and tries to finish in the 3-point shooting contest. I like the versatility that the NBA is showing. But, you make a point about maybe it wasn't the best idea because if you're going to have an all-star game, Atlanta is where you want to have it because of all the other things that come with it. So it was something I think they felt they needed to do. And remember, that's a moneymaker for the Players Association. Okay. League doesn't make any money. It's a Players Association event.
They raised money this time for the historically black colleges.
Exactly. So I didn't have a problem with it. And again, it shows you how proactive this Players Association is compared to some of the other ones. I know the NHLPA does a great job in what they've been able to do off the ice. The other ones, they try, but I don't know if anybody's as close as what the NBA does.
What'd you feel about Reggie Miller calling Steph Curry the best shooter of all time? That's coming from Reggie Miller, so that's not just anybody else off the.
No, I agree. I agree. I think he is. There's nothing he can't do. Well, I tell you what, we'll get back and talk a little bit more about that because we've got one of our favorite people that's going to join us here, and our good buddy Ryan Kelly. So why don't we get him up and we'll say hello to Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly, how are you, sir? The home loan expert.
Yes, sir. And thank you, gentlemen, for letting me jump on. And I'll tell you, Stephen Curry's easily in that top 5 list of all-time best NBA players. He's my son's favorite player, so I'm a little partial. But watching him win that 3-point contest. Now, I wish he would have made that shot at the end of the game. That would have been a great way to end it all off. Just boom right there. But I think it's also interesting to see the younger generations and the older generations and everybody in between who they gravitate towards,
But
favorite players.
I'm going to tell you, Ryan, I'm going to tell you why Steph Curry is a popular player. Because most of us are not 7 feet tall or 6'8" and 280 pounds and can dunk. Steph Curry is kind of like the average guy's guy because we can relate to him being one of the smaller guys on the court, and he learned how to shoot. and most of us aren't going to dunk, but we can all try to shoot and we can have success with it. And I think he's a beacon for young players who won't ever grow to be that big or maybe have as much fun. But you know what? Once you start knocking down threes, they better start guarding you. And all of a sudden you become a more important player to your team, no matter what level you're at.
Yeah, he's a great role model too. Give him that.
Yeah, good point.
Not saying that he's, others aren't, but he's a great role model. I love my son following his content and what he does and all that. And his giving back is, I won't say unmatched, but his giving back level is really high. So I think Steph's a great dude. Now my son loves Jordan too. So he's always fighting with a lot of the guys at my office, at the Home Loan Expert office, and they're in that 30-year-old generation. They're Team LeBron all day, and I love LeBron James too. But my son, who's influenced by me, is Team Jordan. So when my 9-year-old comes into the office, he goes right into the pit with the guys and the girls, and he just starts arguing Jordan versus LeBron, Jordan versus LeBron. It was actually pretty cool, though, to see Steph Curry on LeBron's team this year, and all that. But you know what? I'm going to leave sports to you guys because everybody's like, why is the Home Loan Expert talking NBA? I love the NBA.
Well, but I love it, man. You have all that influence. Some of the other people.
I was going to say, you have all that influence up in Chicago, Ryan. So I may need to talk to you about that Retire 91 that I need the Bulls to do at some point. So
hang it up in the rafters. Get it up on the wall,
91 needs to be hanging in the rafters in Chicago. Absolutely. Hey, you talk about Steph Curry giving back. You are not only the home loan expert in St. Louis, you give back more than anybody in the St. Louis area. So tell us about this new thing that you have come up, the Keep Climbing Foundation, that you guys are you're teasing on the on all the social media accounts.
Yeah, we're really excited about that, and thank you for that. We can never give enough. We can never do enough. It's one of the things that gives us an advantage in our industry is we don't just grow the business. We don't just continue to put in the 7 days a week and all of that for financial reasons by any means. The larger we grow our company, the more dollars and awareness we can raise for children, adults battling life-threatening disease, obstacles in their way of life, whatever that might be. And that's what really motivates us to keep going the way that we go. So it gives us a big leg up there. And we do know we can never give enough. And I mean that. It's not just something we talk about. We believe it. We breathe it. My loan officers on my team, they have to be involved in that way. Big girls, big brothers, big sisters organizations is a big one that we're involved with the LOs. Like, we're really all in when it comes to giving back at the Home Loan Expert office. And I think our clients love that about us as well. We have so many different partnerships out there. We have all sorts, and we wanted to bring it all together. So at the beginning of the year, we launched within our company, our community outreach department. And we have different departments, obviously, at the Home Loan Expert. And this is the only one that doesn't have a P&L. So it's not financially driven by any means. There's no profit and loss on the community outreach. That's just what we do and what we feel is important. And the main project underneath the community outreach department was launching a foundation. We wanted a foundation, a way to collect money as a whole and then distribute it everywhere throughout the year. And we're really excited. We're about 2 weeks away today from launching the Keep Climbing Foundation. And we'll kick it off with our big mountain climb coming up in Alaska in a few months and some other partnerships that we have. But we'll be raising money now under the Keep Climbing Foundation. And then we can spend the days distributing that out to great organizations, to families that need it, to individuals. We'll expand between our strong focus just on the children to young adults, older adults going through life-changing events where, maybe it's just hard and they need to get over something. They need something. They want to go out in the mountains and climb, whatever that is. So we'll be doing a lot of great stuff. You can go to keepclimbingfoundation.org, Keep Climbing Foundation, just keep climbing in life, .org. And you can just put your email address in, and then 2 weeks when it launches, there's a timer right now counting down. You'll get a big heads up. You'll be the first to know. And we have some great partnerships to come out with right away that we're fully supporting and all that. So the Keep Climbing Foundation underneath is started by the Home Loan Expert. We put the cash to get it going, to get it to where it needs to go. And we're really excited. It's a full company thing where we can all work together to help make the world, our markets, just a better place for all.
Hey, Ryan, I want to ask you about the business itself for a minute. You've been in this business for a long time. You were a realtor. You now are in the home loan business. I know here in Florida, the real estate here is just going through the roof because all the people who are from New York have decided to stay here. Have you ever seen a market this volatile as we're seeing today, where rates are low, homes are, if you're not pre-qualified, you're going to have a hard time finding the home you like. Have you ever seen it like this before?
Absolutely not. And I've been in this since 17 years back. So I'll take you to 2003, 4, leading up to the big crash. We're in these unprecedented times where mortgage interest rates are so low. When you can get pre-approved for a home loan in the 2s, you have so much more buying power. You can buy more home. You can take on a larger purchase for the smaller payment. And people have been in their homes a lot over the last year. So you have all that pent up demand, people thinking that we need more space. I need a home office now. I need other things. I don't have to go to the office anymore. So I don't have to live here. I can move here. So we have these really low rates, a lot of volume still sitting on the shelf from last year. And then this new pocket of people just ready to get something different. And we're in 18 different markets, and all of the markets you have to be pre-approved. You have to be prepared to pay full price. And some of our markets, you have to be prepared to buy a house without seeing it. Like legit, just here's a picture. It's in the neighborhood you want. It's going to go on for $265. It'll probably go to $325. You're going to need to get an offer in before you even go to the house. So that's Austin, that's Denver, that's Phoenix, and Gilbert, Arizona, and some of those markets, they're even seeing that. So if you're one of those folks out there that are thinking it's time to buy, it's time to move, first bit of advice, get pre-approved, work with a strong mortgage lender that has the tech, the tools, and will guide you through that process. The second thing is find a strong realtor, because most of the transactions that are happening right now aren't even making it to Zillow. They're not making it to realtor.com. They are selling instantly, meaning a realtor comes into his or her office and says, I just signed a listing in this neighborhood. And it's like, boom, I have a buyer. Don't do anything. I have a buyer. So they're not even getting out there. So don't rely on your Zillow, your realtor.com. Get a good agent, get pre-approved, and get ready to move fast when you find the right house. You can get pre-approved for your mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com. We will guide you through that process. We'll give you good information and help you to make sure you have all the tools and a leg up on the competition so you don't miss the home of your dreams.
Sounds like a plan. I may have to talk to you, man. I'm kind of liking Florida even more these days.
How can you leave, man? How can you leave there?
I know. So yeah, it's something, folks, you got to pay attention to at this point. I mean, the market is just it's so hot, and you can get a good deal, but you have to have the right people in place. And Ryan Kelly and what you do with your crew, that's a great teammate to have, folks, if you are looking around or even thinking about it. And Ryan, how many times have you run across situations where a guy hears you talking and he says something to the wife or the significant, and she had it in the back of her mind, but once you hear about all the things that come with it, you say, well, maybe we ought to take a look at it and just see where we stand.
No, you're exactly right. I hear it all the time. And then the momentum picks up fast. So be ready, be prepared, and work with strong people. I'm going to try to make it down to spring training next week to a game, and I'm going to let you know when I'm going to be there. And
I'll be here.
Hook up with you in person.
We will make it happen. We will make it happen.
You will. Guys, thank you so much, Joe. Thanks for setting us up. Thanks for getting me on. I'm kind of in a weird hair mode where I'm not quite where Joe Roderick is yet. I'm like,
look at this guy, man. He's
trying to get there. Oh, man. So I don't know what to do.
I'm out of this conversation. I'm out. I've got nothing to contribute in this conversation.
Go back to talking about Stephen Curry and some of that. That'd be a lot better. Thank you, gentlemen, for letting me jump on. It's
Thank you, man.
A pleasure. And let's go see you in spring training next week.
All right. Give me a holler. I'll be here. He's Ryan Kelly, folks, the home loan expert. And Joe, you mentioned when you talked to him initially, and how big he is community-wise and how community-driven he is. And this goes on in other markets too. I mean, he is really committed. Yeah. And we're glad to have him be part of what we do as well.
Absolutely. That's the thing. He is the home loan expert all over the place. He mentioned the markets, those other markets, and we mentioned Chicago. I mean, he's doing it everywhere, and he's a big deal everywhere for what he's doing with the community. Hey, before we get off the NBA stuff, did you watch what Shaq did in the wrestling ring last week? I sent you the clip.
I saw it. Yeah, no, I saw it. You know what? I'm amused by him. He you know what? He reads his lines really well. Okay, I mean, and I'm surprised that he hasn't been involved in wrestling before now. And I think you'll probably see him again at some point. But
Oh,
he's
yeah.
such a busy guy. But it's fun. I mean, it's and if you look over the history of wrestling, we've always had athletes cross over and get involved. Mostly they were football players that got involved with wrestling. And a lot of guys, that's how they made money in the offseason. They wrestle. So for him to do it, you don't see many NBA guys do it, but he's Shaq. And I think there's Shaq and then there's the rest of the NBA.
They made him look good for how big he is. They use that,
and he is massive.
To go through two tables was that takes a lot of guts to do that. No matter how much padding is underneath. Hey, brackets on Sunday. We'll find out the field of 68. Every game is taking place in the state of Indiana. Illinois gets a 1 seed, I think, if they win the Big Ten championship.
They should have a 1 seed anyway.
Giving Michigan and Illinois a 1 seed.
Well, yeah, I got news for you. Illinois gets it before Michigan.
I think it comes down to which one of those two teams wins the conference tournament this week.
I think Illinois is a 1 no matter what. I mean, I think they've proven their worth this year.
If Michigan comes back and beats them in the championship game, the day of the brackets being announced, that's going to carry so much weight.
It may, and again, because of everything else that's going on in the world, it's going to have an impact. I'm thinking I look at Duke, and when was the last time St. Louis U and Duke were not in the tournament at the same time?
Right, all of them.
You remember that?
All those teams. You're talking. You could run the list.
Yeah, and you look at some of these programs that have struggled, and again, some of them are going to talk about COVID. I get it, and here's the thing that we really need to take into account: COVID affects everyone differently. We've seen some guys with COVID fog that just didn't recover as well, and they weren't as productive. And I think St. Louis U could lay claim. There've been some guys who weren't as good. Throw in the fact you run against better competition. Which leads me to tell everybody, if you really want to have a good team, go get a better non-conference schedule. So you'll be better prepared. But I think the brackets, so it'll be interesting to see how this thing unfolds. I just don't, I know Gonzaga's number 1. They just don't show me. I mean, they're a good team, but I don't know who they play. I think when I look at them and I look at Illinois, I think Illinois is a better team because of the teams they play.
And right now they're going into that. You're going into the conference tournament right now. You have Illinois 3, Michigan 4, Iowa 5, and Ohio State number 9. That's one hell of a conference tournament.
It really is.
That they have right now. And I think it's Michigan or Illinois that get the ones. I don't know. If Alabama jumps in there and
I don't think so. Alabama had a bad loss earlier this year. And it really made people wonder how good they actually were. And maybe you don't take that into account, but I really think Illinois is a better team than Michigan. And here's the other thing you might want to take into account. The proximity of Michigan to Indiana compared to Alabama and Indiana, considering everybody's going to be there. Now, I don't think they're going to have a lot of fans, but they're going to move the needle as far as ratings are concerned. So, there's so many things that go on in the back room of the selection thing that whatever they come up with, I'm just going to say, okay, I can live with it because I get it and how challenging it's been. So let's just play and see what happens.
So you have, Mizzou will be in there. Mizzou will be somewhere 6, 7 seed, whatever. Mm-hmm. They'll get in no matter what they do. The only thing, if they have a run and win the SEC conference tournament, maybe that bumps them up to a 4 or something. But the big question mark is going to be SLU.
I don't think they get in.
I don't think either. If they would have beaten St. Bonaventure, they get in. I think they deserve to be in, but I think you're looking more at SLU having a number 1 seed.
Well, let me ask you something. Why do you think they deserve to be in?
You look at how good they were before they had that month shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to look, if that holds any weight, that you look and you say, okay, you know what? They played well towards the end of the year. The final 2 weeks of the season, they were playing a lot better basketball. They got shut down. They had one of the longest shutdowns I think we saw in college basketball. A good 5 weeks, was it, that they didn't play a game? You have to factor in that the team wasn't going to be that great when they came back. do you weigh it as two separate seasons? Do you give them a little bit of leeway? I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to be a 1 seed in the NIT.
I don't even know if I want to go to the NIT.
And that's
I just think for SLU in this situation, okay, I commend them for having a little bit better non-conference schedule, but I don't know if North Carolina State's getting in the tournament. Minnesota's going to fire their coach, and those were two legitimate games on the schedule that we all thought was going to really be an indicator of how good SLU was going to be. So they went 1-1 there. LSU beat Missouri, but we don't know how good Missouri actually is. So, I mean, I commend them for going out and finding credible programs to play, but those credible programs had their own set of problems. So we don't know how good they actually were. And when you look at the Atlantic 10, it's just not a wowing conference. I mean, St. Bonaventure really hadn't been worth anything since Bob Lanier was there, okay? And you may not even know who Bob Lanier is. But my point being, this isn't, I'm going to borrow a term from Frank Cusimano, this isn't a sexy conference. It really isn't. They've had some teams that have played well. When they've gotten in the tournament, they maybe get out of the first weekend. But, that doesn't happen very often. So I just don't know where they stack. If SLU wants to get into a legitimate situation, they should be knocking on the Big East door. That's a better conference. It's a regional situation where they don't have to go back east all the time. They got plenty of teams in this neck of the woods that they can play that would create more of a buzz. And with that one spot open, they should be trying to get into that and make Chaffetz or whomever has to write out a check buy themselves out of the Atlantic 10. I don't think the Atlantic 10 does them any good.
No, that's been a discussion for years that is quieted down recently, but I think does need to be revisited once all these schools are opening back up and everything's getting back to normal. They need to look again. I mean, it's more too for travel purposes too. It's just for where they are geographically, it makes no sense for them to be in the Atlantic 10 when you have all of these other conferences that are in the Midwest that they could be a part of. And I mean, I know you don't. I know Missouri Valley is probably a step down, but it makes a lot more sense than being in the Atlantic 10.
I think you can do more damage. You can get more teams in the tournament from the Big East than you can the Atlantic 10 and certainly the Missouri Valley. And I think the Valley has done probably the best job of any mid-major conference in the country and how they do business and how they went out and how they continue to go out and play good non-conference schedules. But I think overall, the Big East is better suited for St. Louis U for some of the reasons you just mentioned. So with that open spot available, you got to go after it, man. I mean, quit making excuses. Go do it. And I think it will enhance your program. It gives you a lot more credibility. More of your fans can see your team perhaps on the road because nobody piles in the car to go to LaSalle to watch the Billikens play. Nobody says, hey, let's spend a weekend and go catch the Billikens as they play St. Bonaventure, which isn't in New York City. So you got to have some other reasons. So I think I would rather see them playing the Marquettes, the Creightons, and teams of that nature that are in this area that they're familiar with, and they match up better against.
Thanks for bringing up Creighton because I was actually heading there next. It was just earlier today that Creighton, it just so happens it's during the Big East tournament too. They lifted the suspension on Greg McDermott, their head coach, after comments that he made last week, where during a post-game talk with his team, he told them that they needed to stay on the plantation.
Didn't go over well.
No,
and I think the way Creighton is handling has been a joke. And it's amazing how everybody who looks like Greg McDermott wants him to be forgiven. Okay. And even to the point where they ran out the one guy after the game who was non-white, who was giving McDermott all this credit. And hey, he might be a great guy. Okay. But you know what? He crossed the line. And while I am all about forgiveness, I think the way Creighton handled it, if you really want to make him squirm, or make him really understand the depth of what he did, then he shouldn't coach the conference tournament. So he got 4 days off. All right. He couldn't coach the conference. I wouldn't let him coach the conference tournament. It's because I want to send a legitimate message on how serious this is. And for some people who, oh, well, he didn't mean anything, but well, you know what? That's when you got to walk in that person's shoes and understand the impact of what it means. And we already feel in a lot of cases that that's the case anyway, and how players are treated like they're on a plantation when it comes to college athletes. So in this situation, I thought they could have done more to resolve this. I thought they failed miserably, and it'll be interesting to see how things go from here with regard to recruiting.
It's just to have that in your. I'm looking here. Greg McDermott's 20 years older than me, so that's a generation and of that. But to have that in your vocabulary, I don't think there's ever been a time where I have sat and looked at something and decided that was going to be that comparing something or using the word plantation would ever come up in just a regular conversation. You have guys like that, or you have, I don't know if you saw the stuff yesterday from Papa John, his interview of what he's been going through the past 20 months.
Well, he brought it on himself. So I got no.
He's been in therapy to remove the N-word from his vocabulary. It's taken him 20 months and he's still struggling with it. And
you know what? A good foot in his ass would probably help eliminate that word in his vocabulary better than sitting on a shrink's couch.
I feel that should be a 20-day process, not a 20-month process. It should not take you that long for things like that. But then I feel like I shouldn't be shocked by this point, but I still am when I see stories like that of what some of these, coaches or men in power are going through with that. And I guess we close it out with Les Miles, who this morning it was announced that he wasn't going to be coming back to Kansas, which I don't know what Kansas was hoping to accomplish with bringing him in the first place. They just need to get rid of that football program. It's a joke of a football program to begin with, but after the creepy allegations from Les Miles at LSU, they have decided to mutually part ways.
Well, what is he, 3-18 since he's been there?
He's never going to change.
They had the second worst record in the last 5 years in college football.
Nick Saban wouldn't win a Big 12 title at Kansas.
Nobody can. You know what? They ought to consider. No, I said nobody can win at Kansas. Maybe they ought to go club football. I don't know. I mean, it's unfortunate. I'm just trying to think of the last great player from Kansas. I don't want to say Gale Sayers.
Aqib Talib.
The cornerback. Yeah. Okay. Was he a transfer? Did he go to JUCO first before he went there? I can't imagine a guy that good could stay there for 4 years and get noticed.
Would he have been? I mean, God, who was the big coach that looked like the Orange Bowl?
Mark
mascot?
Mangino.
Yes,
Mark Mangino.
Yeah, I mean, did he?
Well, I don't know. Mangino had his moments there because he and Roy couldn't get together on a parking spot. You ever heard that story?
No.
Well, he and Roy Williams didn't get along because he took Roy Williams' parking spot at the athletic center. And I guess because it was closer to the door. And if you look at Mangino, you can understand why he wants a shorter walk.
Yeah, you say it. I was thinking it.
Yeah.
All right.
But they have. Well, wait a minute. Charlie Weiss. Didn't Charlie Weiss coach there too?
He was there for a while. I don't know if you'd call that.
I mean, they spent millions of dollars on coaches, so that should tell you something. Now, and it's basically the place to go to die because I haven't heard much of Charlie Weiss because he's too busy counting money. And Mangino, I haven't heard from since. And we won't hear from Les Miles. He'll go away. I'm sure they gave him a quiet package, probably not the one, and this is what happens. I think they fired him for cause. So maybe they give him his base salary. And normally when you get fired in these college situations, they say, hey, he's making $8 million a year. Well, no, he really isn't. As far as the university's responsibility, he gets a base salary that's commensurate to the highest paid individuals in faculty or in administration. And the rest of that money is like TV money, shoe deals, other things that you can do. Boosters kick in. So they're not on the hook for that. So I would imagine maybe they gave Les part of his last salary and said, see you later. And maybe he'll sue. And if he does, then they'll take him to court and bring out all the other dirty laundry. So Les will just go home somewhere. He's 67. I hope he's made enough money where he can do something else.
As I said, maybe I don't know if it's, maybe a year or two, he'll pop back up on the SEC network.
No, he won't. No,
you don't think in a few years?
No, I think a guy like that, and I'll give you a good example. Marshall Faulk got wrongly accused, and we haven't heard of him. Warren Sapp was accused. I don't know where that ended up, but we know he's not on TV anymore. I think there's certain things you can't be part of and expect to have a second chance. And in that situation, I don't think that's going to happen.
Hey, we told the folks earlier in the hour that the interview with you and Tim McKernan is up on the website right now. Two-parter. Part 1 is on InsideSTL.com. Look for the Tim McKernan Show podcast. Part 2 is up on Claibs Online on the podcast. The entire video is up on the Claibs Online YouTube page, so you can find it a few different ways. So that's what we have up on the website. Are you and Rammer doing anything this week before the Selection Sunday?
There's a good chance we will. The other thing we're going to put up is John Mozeliak talking about today, the alternate camp. For those who are just hearing about what they're going to do, we're going to have that press conference up for you today also. So we got a lot of good content, as we always do. I'm going to talk to Alex Ferrario a little.
I was just about to say congratulations to Alex Ferrario last week. He and his wife welcomed a baby girl. So I didn't know he was back at it.
Back in the saddle today. So we'll have him on later today.
He is recording. He's doing his show on ESPN 101 from under his staircase at his house. He's got it all soundproofed, and he's got a little table there. I think he's just sitting on the floor with a microphone doing the show there.
That's how guys roll these days. You got to find a quiet spot.
Never would have been done 52 weeks ago. Never.
No, sir.
He would not have been sitting on the floor underneath a staircase 52 weeks ago. Nope. But yet here we are today. Anything else? Any other plans for anything while you're down there in Jupiter? You running into anybody down there?
No. I saw the commissioner the other night. No, it's kind of quiet, to be honest with you, down here. I mean, I think COVID obviously has had a lot to do with it. You know about our lack of access. So it's just one of those things that we're just trying to get through it. And hopefully within a couple, 3 months, we'll have a little bit more normalcy. And when we get to the All-Star break, it'll be better. And, hopefully we'll have a good baseball team to go along with it.
Absolutely. They should be underway right now. Hopefully their starting pitcher is making it out of the first inning for today's game against the Mets. But that's going to do it for us today as we thank Ameren, Illinois, Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert, and Mungenast St. Louis Acura for sponsoring Lunch with Claibs and Joe each and every week here on ClaibsOnline.com. For Mike Claiborne, I'm Joe Roderick. We will talk to you next Monday.